We're getting there, we're getting there. This is module number 6, and I know you guys are already impatient, and I would bet a lot of you guys went directly to module 7, but that's okay. Now we're going to talk about how to secure the VTB, the second mortgage, maybe third mortgage, and how to put it in place, how to protect, well, how to sell it to the vendor, the reason why you should carry, how to protect him, how to make it a win-win situation, and how to negotiate it and put it in your deal. So this is your module 6 before we get to what? To the case studies. Understanding mortgages, understanding how to get the vendor to carry a mortgage, reasons for, pros and cons, and how to protect him and make the deal a win-win is key to your no money down deal. So we're back into PowerPoint in a second.
Okay, everybody, we're getting to module number 6, the secret to securing a VTB, understanding how it works and how we're going to put it together, talking about clauses that you should have, how to sell it to the real estate agent, how to sell it to the vendor, why should the vendor agree to carrying a mortgage. So this is going to be a very important section for you, and you see we're getting more and more into the real concepts and understanding of no money down. So here we go. Let's get right to it. So the magic of VTBs. VTBs are the secret sauce to doing a no money down deal. We call it secret sauce. Probably, 40 to 50% of your deals that will be 100% no money down deal will require at one point or another a VTB. It might be a temporary mortgage, it might be just a 3-month, 6-month, but it might require that the vendor will carry a mortgage. And that is going to help you. There's other ways, but then if there's other ways, that means that the vendor may not get the full selling price and so on and so on. So let's review what we have here. Remember, if you use traditional financing, you've got $1 million property. You're going to get from the bank 75% loan to value. That means that you would technically require $250,000. So we know this is just basic. We haven't combined any other strategies. We're just saying let's buy traditionally, 25% down, $250,000. Well, guess what? It's hard to come up with $250,000. Do we agree? And realistically, you don't want to put $250,000 on $1 million property. It doesn't make sense. With $250,000, you should buy between $2.5 to $4 million worth of real estate once you know how to put those deals together. So this is the traditional way. Naturally, if we go to a VTB, well, purchase price $1 million, $750,000 loan to value from a bank, VTB $250,000 brings us to no down payment. So this is voila, and no money down. Now, this is going to a vendor saying, Mr. Vendor, would you carry a mortgage in the amount of $250,000? And the vendor might come up and say, listen, why in the world would I sell to you if I carry, 25%? So basically what you're telling me is that you're taking my building and I'm financing your purchase. That's basically what he's thinking. But at the same time, if the vendor has no mortgage on the property or has a $500,000 mortgage on the property, isn't he putting $250,000 in his pocket or $750,000 if he has no mortgage? Has he not sold his property? Did you pay full price for his property? Are you going to be able to close faster? Does he have management problem anymore? So when people tell me that why would a vendor carry a mortgage, there are many reasons why he would accept to carry 10, 15, 20%. And basically there is a financial advantage to him carrying that he may not even know about. So your job is actually going to be to help him understand why he should carry a mortgage. And I say should. If there's no room, if there's no equity, if the guy is broke and must pay back the bank, he's having some financial challenge, there's a big chance he won't be able to carry. But if he's having those challenges, then the price might not be full asking price. So I'm going to play with the vendor agreeing to carry a mortgage, and I'm willing to pay more for a property if the vendor is carrying than if not. And you'll see how I'll negotiate that next. So the magic is having a VTB, but if we don't have it, there's other ways to do it. So let's review what a vendor take back is. Well, it's a type of mortgage in which the seller offers to lend the fund to the buyer to help facilitate the purchase of the property. So he's actually lending you money to buy his own property, often in second position after a conventional bank loan. Allows you to reduce or eliminate your cash outlay and creates no money down deal. So that's basically, what a VTB is all about. So writing a VTB clause. So you've heard me say a few times, vendor agrees to carry a mortgage. I'm not saying a second, a third. I'm saying a mortgage in the amount of, for a term of, interest only. Guys, ladies, gentlemen, friends, whatever, your negotiation of the mortgage, everything is negotiable. The amount, the term, principal and interest, 5 years, 3 years. Do you have an option to renew? Is it 2% year 1, 3% year 2, and so on and so on? Is it conditional to the building being full? I mean, you have to look at it as this is a contract between two people, and whatever suits you and the vendor is what you're looking at getting. It's as simple as that. You're looking to make a win-win situation. That's what I want out of this transaction. Now, I've got a PS here. When you write an offer to purchase, you will always, before you bring in the second mortgage, make sure the vendor has agreed to this offer is conditional upon the purchasers, or subject to, okay, it's conditional upon the purchaser to obtain satisfactory financing at his sole and absolute discretion. Why am I putting that there? Well, the vendor agrees to carry a mortgage, okay, but first of all, I have to be able to get a mortgage. I have to get suitable financing at my sole and absolute discretion. So that means that once the vendor reads that, it says, okay, I understand that Marc is going to go out to a bank and he's going to try to get a first mortgage. Well, the clause about this is subject to obtaining satisfactory financing at the sole and absolute discretion of the purchaser may mean that I need to get a first mortgage from the bank, I need to get a hard money lender, and I'm trying to come in with 10% down. And then in my contract, I will technically say vendor agrees to carry a mortgage for maybe the equivalent of the 10%. But you notice I said vendor agrees to carry a mortgage. So the vendor, when he accepts your offer to purchase, he's accepted that you need financing, that you're going to go out and you're going to apply for financing, and naturally this offer is subject to you obtaining satisfactory financing to your sole and absolute discretion. And if this means that I'm looking for financing to obtain 100% financing, and he's agreed to that, well, he's agreed to that. If he's agreed to carry a mortgage in the amount of X number of dollars, and he's agreed to give you satisfactory financing, that technically would mean that if he decides that he's not closing because he finds out or notices that you've got 95% financing, so you've got a first with the bank, hard money, and then you got him in third position, guess what? If he decides that he's not closing on that, he's in default of his contract because he accepted the offer that the financing is, the deal is conditional upon you obtaining satisfactory financing, and whatever you put in is what you wanted, and you remove your condition based on that. You've incurred some fees, appraisal, and so on, based also on the fact that he's carrying a mortgage. I'm not trying here to be deceptive. I'm just trying to create my financial structure so that I get the financing that I need. Now, some vendor will say, well, I don't want to be more than, if I carry a mortgage, it's only in second position. There's a way in creative financing to be able to increase that at a future rate, and I'll even show you a clause later on. Give me a bit of time on this, but I'll show you a way to actually push him in third position, like it or not. So this is writing the clause, and it's more complicated than that. I'm simplifying it, but you'll see, and then you'll see I have some more training for you guys available that will talk to you on how to present clauses, how to write contracts, specific wording that is important in your financing. So we're going to go to the next page here. Terms and condition of this mortgage. I've already said vendor agrees to carry a mortgage of, let's say, $50,000 for a term of 5 years, interest only. That's awesome. The vendor says yes. Now, what kind of interest should you ask for? Well, guys, always start at the lowest amount. Some vendors may agree to carry a mortgage, no interest, no payment for 6 months. They might say, well, it's a bit, you know, you mean I'm not going to get any money on it? Yes, John, you're not going to get any money, but how about if the first 6 months is no interest, no payment? The next 6 months I'm going to pay you 2%. The next 6 months I'll pay you 3, 4, 5, and 6, and work with the interest based on the cash flow that the property is going to be generating once renovated. Because when a vendor carries a mortgage, what you want him to understand is that you're buying his problems. You're buying his vacancy. You're buying his building that's in despair. And you're going to need to put some money in there. So if you actually go out and borrow a first mortgage and you pay him full dollar for his mortgage, you may not have the cash flow to repair his building, therefore you won't have enough cash flow to maybe even pay him in the future. So you almost need to make him understand that it is to his benefit to give you a break on the first maybe 6 months or a year until your cash flow is better, and then you'll bonus him. So if your original thought was that the average term, the average interest for the term of your mortgage was, let's say, 6%, you might say, John, I'm not going to pay you interest, let's say 5%. Okay, I'm not going to pay you any interest on year 1. Year 2, I'll pay you 1. Year 3, I'll pay you 3, 4, and 5. But my last year, I'll give you 1% more, because by then, if you did your job properly and you managed your building properly and you renovated, by then you would have generated more income, therefore you'd be able to pay his mortgage or give him more income on his mortgage. The other thing also is that when you buy a building is where you're going to have the biggest costs. Tenants will move out, you'll need to repair, you might find some problems that you didn't know. So you need to have the best cash flow there is to start with in order for you to make money. So ask him for no interest, no payment for 6 months, 1% for the next 6, 2% year 2, and so on and so on. And if the vendor is really fighting about it, what you could technically do is say, listen, John, I understand that you're losing interest on your first year. How about if I just calculate that the value of the interest would be, let's say, $3,000 for that first year, and what we'll do is we'll add that to the end. So instead of owing you, if it's an interest and interest-only mortgage, let's say that the vendor carried $20,000, and the first year you should have made $3,000 in interest. Well, what you have to say is just, listen, John, at the end of the 3 years or 5 years, I'll owe you $23,000. So for me right now, what it does, it gives me a better cash flow. Therefore, I could repair your building, I could get the vacancy down, I could get better quality tenant. And if I have that, and if by bad luck I was to default, at least you'd have a building that's been repaired, that's been clean, that's got good tenants. So actually I'm helping you here. I'm helping you by asking you to lower the interest rate and be it interest rate only. I hope you guys understand what I mean. So I'm starting interest only. I'll base the interest based on performance. If the building performs good, I'll pay you this. If the vacancy goes down because I do the job, I'll pay you this. Maybe in 3 years from now I could start paying principal and interest, but then principal and interest is a pain in the neck to calculate. You have to have an amortization schedule, and naturally term of mortgage, well, you know, go minimum 5 years. See what the vendor will say. And one quick tip, if you get a 5-year mortgage, a VTB with the vendor, try to get a 3-year term on your first, because that means that you will need to refinance or do something in 3 years from now, and you will still be in second position once I show you how to do this in the next few slides. So I hope you guys understand what I'm doing here and how I'm creating this VTB. So now, it's nice to say, Mr. Vendor, you agree to carry a mortgage in the amount of $50,000, interest only, 2%, term of 5 years. Other clauses that you should have in your VTB should be, you want to have the right to renew that mortgage for a consequent term, so another 5 years. So if you, let's say the guy says, listen, I'll give you a mortgage for 2 years, well, you want to have the right to renew it. You would like to have the right to assign this mortgage. That means that if you sell the property, it is not a due on sale clause, meaning that if you sell the property, you'll sell it with him still carrying a that mortgage. You want to have the right to subordinate that mortgage to any new financing, meaning that the vendor agrees that if you put some new financing, you'll stay in second position. And you'll see when I teach the creative financing camp, just creative financing here, I use that clause to help get more financing and so on. You also want to have a clause in there that is in the event of default. If I default on my mortgage, Mr. Vendor, I'm going to give you back the property. Now, what I mean by this is very simple. I'm going to quit claim the property, and I'm going to give it back if I'm late more than 4 months. You don't need to go to court. You don't, and the only thing you could do is take your property back. You might also want to have a substitution clause, meaning that I could substitute the collateral from your building to another property as long as the market is the same. I'll explain that in creative financing. You also want to have the right to repay it at any time with no penalty and bonus. You want to have the first right of refusal. If the vendor was to sell that mortgage to somebody else, so he's got a $20,000 mortgage with you. Okay, you have a $20,000 mortgage with him. He wants to sell it to brother-in-law for $16,000. Brother-in-law has $16,000 in cash. And he says, well, I'm going to sell my brother-in-law for $16,000. I'll discount it by 20%. You might want to have the right to buy it, the first right of refusal. You might want to have an escalation clause, meaning that the interest rate will go up, or even it could be, listen, the interest rate will go up within time. Every year you might be able to lend me another $5,000 and so on. And you want to know what your renewal terms will be. So what will be the interest, if there's a fee, how long. So these are the clauses that you want to put into a vendor take-back mortgage. And effectively, guys, my next module I have available is writing contracts. How to write them, what to say. It will be a course like this for 3 to 5 hours, and we'll go through each and every one of these clauses one by one. We'll tell you when and how to use them. Okay? After this, what do we have? How to sell it to the vendor. Do you remember when I talked to you guys about the dating principle? And I'll explain that also in bonus number 2. It's like everything. If vendor wants $600,000 and you offer him $320,000, you're going to slap him in the face. Do we agree? And if you're asking him for at $320,000, how in the world do you think you're going to get the vendor to agree to carry a mortgage on top of it? So you've got to sort of, think of the way you're going to offer, make your offer, how much you're asking for, give yourself leeway, and understand that your first offer will never be your last offer. Okay, or your last price. And you will always negotiate the price going down. And actually in investments, in investing, when you're buying your own principal residence, when you're buying a single family home with a real estate agent, what happens normally? The vendor wants $325,000, you're offering $300,000, and the real estate agent's job is actually to bring both parties somewhere in the middle. Do we agree? So it will be, he'll say, no, my counter offer is $320,000, you'll offer $305,000, $315,000, $310,000, and you'll end up somewhere in between there. Because the real estate agent's job is actually to get both parties to come as close as possible together. Well, in commercial real estate, when you know what you're doing and you're presenting the offer in a structured and understandable manner for you, your job is, the first thing the offer is out for is the vendor negotiable? Is he willing to carry? Get him to accept, so negotiate a price. Start doing your due diligence, and as you will do your due diligence, you establish the real value of the property. You establish the risk. You establish the quality of the asset that is sold. You establish if there is a future appreciation. Can I do a highest and best use? Are the terms and conditions that the vendor is offering me, are they good or not? Can I get a partner to come in? How much cash will you need? So these are all things that you'll discover in your due diligence. Therefore, you'll have tools to renegotiate the deal. A vendor will try to sell you a property and say, my building is full. And maybe what he did is he just filled it up 3 months ago just to make sure that when he sold it, it was 100% occupied. Well, when you're going to do that due diligence, are you going to ask for just last month's rent roll? Or are you going to ask for the last 3 years? And if you look at your due diligence carefully, and if you notice that the average vacancy on this building has been 25%, and now it's 0% vacancy, is the building worth the full price based on 100% occupancy? Or should you discount the price of the building because the history says that this area, this building generates, has an average of 25%? Well, I would not pay the value of a building based on 100% occupancy when the owner just basically stacked up the lease. And how easy could that be? You put an ad in the newspaper, for rent, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, whatever, apartment, 2-bedroom, and when people call up, they say, listen, I have a promotion right now. I'm giving you a 42-inch plasma TV if you sign a 1-year lease. And it's not in the lease anywhere. As soon as the tenant moves in, TV's on the wall, it's his to take, and you sign him a note, says, listen, because you paid me on time on the first month, TV's yours. Well, guess what? There's a chance that that TV has not been expensed in the income and expense statement. Your building is full, and 6 months after, tenants start leaving, and they leave with TVs. So I'm going to do my due diligence, and then I'll decide if the building is worth that, and I will always reduce it. Now, you also have to sell the benefits to the vendor carrying a mortgage. What do I mean by this? There are some benefits, and I'll list them here, okay? 7 reasons a vendor should carry a mortgage. Well, a vendor will have a higher price for his property. Very often, if you look at the vendor properties worth $600,000, very often I will make two different offers. Mr. Vendor, if you carry a mortgage, I'll pay $580. If you don't, I'll pay $500. Your choice. So now the vendor knows that he's going to get a deal in between $5 and $580, but you know very well that you're not willing to pay more than $520, $530 if he's not willing to carry. So by him carrying a mortgage, you almost tell him, Mr. Vendor, if you don't carry a mortgage, I can't offer you that price because it's going to cost me some legal fees. I need to find financing. I'm going to have to go to a hard money lender. If I go to a hard money lender, my interest rate is going to cost me more. Therefore, if you're willing to carry, I'm willing to pay more for your property. Also, if he's willing to carry and you only need to go out and get a first mortgage of $75 and maybe 10% down, and you have that 10%, will the transaction be easier to put in place? Absolutely. Now, if it's easier to put in place and there's no hard money lenders, there's no second appraisal, there's no financing with 3, 4, 5 different banks, is there a chance that we'll be able to close faster? Therefore, we're going to resolve this problem also. Now, some people say the security of the mortgage is his property. Let me think about this for a moment. The vendor is selling you his property. He's had it for 2, 3, 5, 20 years. He's carrying a mortgage. If you ever default on the property, isn't he getting his property back that he had for 5, 10, 15 years? And if he is getting his property back 5 years down the line, has his property gone up in value? Wouldn't it be wise for him to actually say, listen, I'll take my property back in 5 years if you default. I have no problem. It's going to have gone up. If you've maintained the property properly because you were friends with the owner, is there a chance that it is worth even more? Do you see what I mean? Is that there's no real disadvantage to the vendor carrying a mortgage on his property because he already knows that property. Now, depending if you're in Canada or in the States, there's some different tax consequences by you carrying a mortgage. In Canada, if you carry a mortgage, you have not realized the full profit of the property. Therefore, you're not taxable at the day of the sale, but more when you get your money. So then what you could do is based on the vendor needs, what does he really want, what does he need? If your vendor is retiring in 5 years from now, couldn't you say, listen, Mr. Vendor, how about if we do an interest-only payment right now, and in 5 years from now, I'll renew for the next 5 years, and I'll start giving you balloon payments every year. How much do you need to live once you're retired? And we'll just complement this with the mortgage payment. And you'll have a lesser tax rate at your retirement than you have right now. Therefore, you'll benefit from it. Also, that mortgage could technically be sold at any time. So if he needs to sell it and discount it, if you're offering him full price for his property right now and he was willing to discount it by $50,000, couldn't he discount that mortgage by $20, $30, $40,000? Therefore, he doesn't lose anything on it. And at the same time, if the average blended rate over 5 years is, let's say, 4.5% or 5%, isn't it more than what he would be getting at the bank right now? So if I were you and I was starting as a new investor, even seasoned investors that have been doing this for a few years, I would actually prepare a brochure, and with my offer to purchase, I'd list, Mr. Vendor, please consider these 7 reasons why you should accept to carry a mortgage under terms and conditions that I am proposing, and explaining all these 7 clauses, and that would probably help you get mortgages. And guess what? It might even help the real estate agent to sell it. Because the other thing there is that if he doesn't agree to give you a second mortgage, maybe there will be no transaction. And Mr. Real Estate Agent, you might be losing on a commission on this. So it is to your advantage to understand and to sell to your vendor the reasons why he should carry. So education, both on the vendor side and the real estate agent side, is almost crucial there. And you should take that into consideration when you're presenting the offer to purchase. Make a small brochure. It's easy on the Mac. 7 reasons why, Mr. Vendor, you should carry a mortgage. Address it directly to him. Put the interest that you're going to pay him. Put the balance after 5 years. Explain the fact that you could not blanket, but you could balloon payment his mortgage in 5 years. Explain all those things in writing so he could sit down and read and say, you know what, that makes more sense than what I thought. So that's nice, but sometimes the vendor will freak out. Well, Mark, you know what, I've sold a property one day and I gave the guy a mortgage, and after 2 years he stopped paying and I had to go to court and got a judgment and it cost me money and everything. Here's a way where you could actually secure the vendor in the contract and say, Mr. Vendor, I understand what you're saying, and it's not my intent to ever be late. And things happen in life, and I understand you might have been burned once. But if we were able to find a way, and look how I'm saying it, if we were able to find a way to secure you, would we have a deal? Now I'm test closing. If I could find a way to secure your mortgage and make sure you're not going to have any trouble in collecting and getting your property back, would we have a deal? Is this the last thing that is preventing us from doing a deal? I'm test closing again. I'm going to talk about sales negotiation in our bonus thing, but this is very important for you guys. So here's what you could offer your vendor once he talks about this. So listen, I wrote it for you guys. In the event that the purchaser is in default of his obligation to the vendor for more than 4 consecutive months. First of all, you notice I wrote 4 consecutive months because you might be in default 1 month, next month you'll be able to catch up. So the purchaser agrees to quit claim the property back to the vendor. So I agree that I'll transfer the property back to you. The vendor's lawyer will hold in trust a registrable land transfer. The vendor may request from his lawyer the registration of such transfer upon proof of non-payment of the note mortgage by the vendor or mutually agreed transfer. So what I'm saying here is that, Mr. Vendor, I don't want to be in default. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sign a quit claim. I'll sign a registrable transfer of land. I mean, there's different ways, different names for a contract, but the purpose here is to have a document that basically says, Mr. Vendor, I'm giving you back your property. And if I'm giving you back your property, you can't sue me for it. So that's another important thing. And I'm going to give it back to you if you could prove that I haven't paid you for 4 months, or if we agree after 3 months, listen, John, I can't pay the mortgage anymore. I'm giving you back your property, period. So I mean, this is a way to have to protect the vendor and make him like you even more. Think about it. Dating principle comes in again. If you made the vendor happy, if you got good terms and conditions and you didn't slap him in the face and you explained to him why he should carry, and if the guy had no mortgage on that property, by the way, is there a chance that he may have other properties that he may also be willing to sell you, that he may also be willing to carry a mortgage on? Or is there a chance that he might know another investor that may have some properties for sale? So the send 100 offers, shotgun agreement here that says, listen, let's send all these offers out and we'll see what sticks. It's the worst way to get repeat business and good business in my book of sales anyway. So how to sell to the realtor? Well, the benefit to the realtor, if he or she helps you put out the vendor take back, is what? Faster closing, easier to refinance, less paperwork. Oh, Mr. Real Estate Agent, you know what? If you help me here in getting the vendor to agree to carry a mortgage, and I only have to put, let's say, 50,000 instead of 200,000, that basically means that I could probably go out and buy 3 more properties. So therefore, if you help me find good deals and you help me obtain vendor take backs on my other property, instead of just doing 1 sale, you're going to make 4 sales, which means you're going to make even more money. And by the way, because the vendor is carrying a mortgage, I'm paying full price. Therefore, you're getting a higher commission. So, Mr. Real Estate Agent, there's some real good reasons why you should agree or you should sell this mortgage to your client. Do you see what sales and negotiation technique? Do you see where I'm getting at in all this? It's all a matter of understanding the sales process, understanding what mortgages are all about, understanding the liability, the challenges that the vendor has, the challenges to put mortgage in place. So as a wrap up to this module, guys, VTB are an important element to no money down deals. There's 7 benefits. You must sell them to the vendor to create a win-win situation. And that's basically my module 6. Now module 7, look at that. We're actually going to make all these concepts of this training come together for you by looking at real case studies. Some of these are my own deals, some of these are my students, but what I've done here is I've gathered 5 easy to understand no money down deals, and then with what I gave you today and what you're going to understand next, you're going to start to be able to create a mindset where you'll think outside that box. I hope you guys like what we've got so far in training. I'm excited. It's going very, very well. And listen to this again, understand it, and again, go on our blog, post some ideas, and we'll definitely get there for you guys. Okay, guys? So I'll see you in next module. Have fun, and I'll talk to you very, very soon.